I've had guns pulled out on me plenty of times. Yeah.
You have?
Yeah, definitely.
And like what? I mean, what? How'd you get out of it?
I don't know. I just always got out of it. Like, just smiled.
I'd never really heard of a bounty hunter, and I didn't hardly expected a little English girl to have known what a bounty hunter was.
The first time I met the real Domino Harvey, I find that she was very cool. She was like shy. You know, I think that she was also maybe impressed, you know, that we're doing something about her life.
I think, you know, she's somebody who needs excitement, who needs, you know, something to wake her up in the morning and to really make her feel alive. She had this amazing ability that when somebody pulled a gun on her, she wouldn't flinch. And it was just a talent that she had, and she didn't know why, but she just exterior-wise, she just calmed down as opposed to kind of got all scared and het up. And I thought that was a really good image, that she is somebody who, instead of freaking out at things that you would normally freak out at, she manages to get really calm.
I met her 12 years ago, and she came to my office, and she was beautiful, she was tall, she was chameleon-like. One day she'd come in, she looked fantastic, because she just finished her career as a model and just started bounty hunting.
She would go in and she would be in a bar and she would chat up some guy who they wanted to get out into the parking lot, and she'd say, you know, hey, let's go to your motel room or whatever. Then they get him out into the parking lot, and then the guys would, you know, jump on the person. And that was the beginning, I think.
We'd have to draw somebody out, get them out of their house, get them out of their apartments, or get them out of their business, place of business, you know. And her going up there and just talking the way she talks, she gets them out.
She's a girl that is born in England. She was the daughter of a very famous actor called Lawrence Harvey.
He died when she was very young, so I don't think she was directly influenced by him, but I think she's inherited a lot of his very strong personality.
Her father was the Manchurian Candidate, and her mother was a Vogue model.
I'd been working in Berlin with a photographer called Helmut Newton, and there was another girl with us, and her name was Dominique Sander, and she became an actress, very well known, and her nickname was Domino. And I thought it was such a pretty name. I'd never heard of anybody called Domino, so I thought if I have another daughter, I shall call her Domino. And I did.
After her father passed away, you know, she came to Beverly Hills and was not a fan. The luxurious environment of Beverly Hills she found to be very vapid and empty, and she immediately rebelled against it, was playing with switchblades and throwing stars and nunchucks and all sorts of, you know, weaponry.
She went to boarding school in England. She didn't grow up in Beverly Hills. She wasn't a Beverly Hills kid. You know, although her father was a famous actor and her mum was a famous model, she wasn't that person that so many of those kids, I think, probably do become.
There were often many occasions where we were going out for dinner, or we were going somewhere where it was more appropriate for her to wear, you know, proper shoes, and no, she didn't. Always wore trainers. There was always quite a good outfit on the top, and then I'd look down, there would be the trainers.
We met at boarding school when we were 11 years old, and she arrived like halfway through a year, which is really hard to do anyway for anybody. And I can't remember if Domino had been suspended or was expelled from another school. I know she got expelled from that one. But she arrived, I saw her going into my room. I walked down the hall, thought, who the hell is that? And she had this really long blonde hair, and she was really tall. She was really beautiful. And every single girl in that school hated her. She was like immediately disliked by our year, except for by me. She was kind of aloof as well. She had a kind of thing about her. And she was in my dormitory, and she was in the bed next to me. And the first thing she asked me was, would I go and do judo classes with her? So she was already into sort of, not violence, but she was into sort of manhandling people at an early age.
She didn't like that prissy life. She didn't like boarding schools, And so you had all that thrown in your lap and you didn't take advantage of it? She was against all that stuff. She just wanted to do stuff on her own.
She'd just shrug her shoulders and go on her merry way. Yeah, she's very strong.
I just thought she was amazing. I just thought, oh my God, I'd never seen anything like this person.
I think that for Domino, she wanted to be a bounty hunter because she was a rebel. She wants something different in her life. She didn't want to be a Beverly Hills wife, you know? She didn't want to do shopping. She wanted to do bounty hunting. But in fact, bounty hunting came to her life by accident.
She applied for a job in a it was like an advert in a newspaper, you know? I mean, what goes through your head till you go, oh yeah, bounty hunting, that sounds good.
I was in a bit of a predicament with my family, wasn't speaking to me, and finally my mum said I could stay at her house. I was like 22 then, and I'd been away for a few years, but she's like, okay, you can come and stay with me, but you have to get a job. So she was pressuring me to get a job. So in the LA Times it said bounty hunters needed now, and I went to a seminar, and that's where I met Eddie. That's not where I met Choco though.
You know, Ed Martinez gave me a call and says that I got somebody I want you to meet. And we have an interesting proposition for you. And I said, like what? You know what I mean? He says, you'll find out. And then they brought her down to the neighborhood. And he introduced me. He says, because he had told her that I used to work with him once in a while. You know, then he told me, gave me a proposition, said, well, would you do us a favor? Would you be her bodyguard? Because then he explained to me, you know, that she's going to do a movie and stuff like that, and it's all in process right now. It's all in the works. It's kind of interesting, you know what I mean? I said, yeah, sure, I'm not doing nothing. And me and her, when we met, we just got tight. I mean, it's like we knew each other already. It was that weird.
I think I first found out when the newspaper article came out about her. And I have friends ringing me up and saying, what is this?
I was staying with my friend Sasha Gervasi, who's a writer. He wrote Terminal, and he was at the time writing for a newspaper called the Daily Mail. And I said, you've got to meet this girlfriend of mine called Domino Harvey. She's like amazing. She's a bounty hunter. She runs around with these guys, you know, hunting down criminals. He was like, fuck man, I want to meet this girl. It's this girl, I want to write a story about her. Domino turns up and she's got this monster truck, like one of those huge trucks with the big wheels. There's like 6-inch extension on it, you know, this kind of thing. Anyway, so she showed up and, you know, Domino's got a certain presence about her anyway, and she just also has a certain attitude about her, like, just don't really bother me too much, okay? And so Sasha sat down and Sasha started asking him the story and everything, and they, so she told him her life and everything, and he was like, fuck, you know, can I write your story? And she was like, yeah, okay, fine. And he met with Eddie and he met with Choco, and there was that picture which that's been used in the film of, like, outside the restaurant or whatever with the three of them. I think there's been a picture that's kind of been copied from that, which was in the Daily Mail. And that's what Tony saw.
My business manager, Neville Schulman, sent me the article and said, you might check this girl out. So based on that, I tracked her down in Hollywood and got her to come to my office and sat with her. You know, and she was great because she was shy inside, but she had this sort of attitude on the outside which kept people at bay.
When I started doing it, I was 23, I think.
So your mom was cool with you sort of being gone for 2 weeks at a time? No, she must have freaked out.
No, but I was like that since I was a teenager. Anyway.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Like, I never had any rules at home, really.
Yeah.
You know, the only rule I had was don't get sunburned. I'm serious.
Don't what?
Don't get sunburned.
Uh-huh.
You know, that was like, if I was sunburned, she'd freak out, but you know, if I come back with like a fucking ton of guns and shit, she'd be like...
Well, she explained it as little as possible. I just sort of got little inklings here and there. I know I did buy her, for one of her birthdays, suddenly I took it rather seriously. I bought her a Kevlar vest.
Your mom bought you the bulletproof vest?
Yeah, she was birthday present.
Oh, right.
And I never wore it. I wore it maybe once.
Right.
But I still got it hanging in my closet.
When I first seen her, I said, no way. Why do you want to be a bounty hunter? You know, why down here? You know, why with us? You know, and she says, I want to go where the action's at. I want to go where it's the roughest.
I think she liked hanging out with poor people. I think she liked hanging out with people who had difficult lives and who had seen violence and had encountered violence in their life in a way that she never had, and she liked the idea of hunting down criminals.
I used to call her the furious one, because every time she's ready to fight or something, or she did fight, she put all her might and fury into it. You know, I mean, you'd have to grab her and stop her sometimes because she'll go.
It used to be people like Ed Martinez and Choco and Domino, who were on the renegade side, were kind of running amok back in the day.
12 years ago, the bounty hunting business wasn't a big business in Los Angeles.
It's very trendy now. Obviously, I was ahead of my years, you know.
You know, 2 shows.
I didn't think it was trendy when I was going into it. I just fell into it.
In the beginning, we were like, you know, the Three Musketeers, you know. Thought we'd go out there and just do it.
Ed and Choco were smart in that they saw an opportunity with Domino, saw an opportunity of taking this girl and using her like a carrot, because she could get in places and open doors that they couldn't, because they looked like a couple of dangerous guys, you know, so a couple of thugs.
They became her surrogate family, and so she was living in her mother's guest house in Beverly Hills and running around bounty hunting, and she was just like turned on by the thrill of doing this.
And I remember one of the stories when she told me, which just sounded so fucking hair-raising. I was like, fuck, what the fuck are you doing? And they'd been sort of holed up, like waiting for a group of, I don't know, guys, obviously criminals. I mean, it was a group of them rather than just sort of one, I think. And they were staking out the house. And they had like a call sign that they were meant to go in on. And she went in before everybody, and I think, you know, she had like 20 guns sort of pointed at her, and her holding one gun.
Domino was in the living room with people down, she had guys on the floor, because we didn't know who's who, you know what I mean? We're just going after one guy. But you got to put everybody down so you could, you know, everybody be safe. You know, because you mess with homeboys, you don't want, you know what I mean? So everybody's got to watch their back, and we went in there looking, and all of a sudden we heard a shot. Then we heard a couple shots, and somebody got shot. None of us got shot, just one of them.
And she said that was a bit of a bad time.
There was no her looking behind her back or something like that, because she didn't have that fear. I never seen a woman like that. They didn't have no fear.
Inside, she was always reaching for that extra yard, that extra rush, that extra buzz, that extra mile in terms of the adrenaline rush. And she got it through drugs, and she mainly got it through bounty hunting.
Then she got into guns. She started liking guns. And that's when I introduced her to Betsy. Betsy the shotgun. Double-barrel sawed-off shotgun.
She was able to kind of exist in that gray zone that bounty hunters live in, where, you know, she's walking around with a shotgun, and people are letting her do it.
Once she got a hold of guns, that was it, you know? She liked them. She liked guns a lot. She liked any weapon, actually. You know what I mean? Any weapon, you know. Fell in love with Betsy. That's why I ended up giving it to her. I told her, when I come back, I want it back. Yeah, right.
I help the police put less stress. It puts less stress on the taxpayers, because taxpayers don't pay.
Yes.
And it helps out the police force as well, quite a lot. That's quite a high percentage, and it's at no expense to the taxpayer. So I always thought it was pretty good.
We started doing things on our own, but we did a lot together, and it was good. It was good for a while. It was real good.
At that time period, it was okay to do some of the things they did. And let's just say they had a very colorful reputation. They basically were on the edge.
I wasn't really quite sure how serious it was. And I still don't know to this day.
I kept trying to coach her and advise her and think, listen, there's bounty hunting gigs. I don't know, I don't know there's too much of a future in it, because you're going to kick down one too many doors. And she said, no, listen, I love it more than I love anything else I've ever done. He said, it's such an exciting world and such a wild world. Yeah, so I kept trying to guide her and saying, nah, you shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that. But she was willful, and she was a mind of her own.
When we parted, just go take care of our personal things. and then we'll meet up again. But it never came that way.
I think what happened is the times caught up with them, and the things they were doing caught up with them, but they were quite the characters in their time.
A week after I was in town, I was trying to get settled in. Then I was going to call her up until I'm back in town. Because I've been out of the loop for 10 years. Didn't know who to call and didn't know how to get a hold of her. And then I read in the newspaper and it just threw me back.
Pete called me on a Monday morning and said, you won't believe this, but Domino died last night. They found her. She had a heart attack, and she was in the bath and she had a heart attack and she died.
I actually spoke to Domino the day she passed away. I talked to her for about an hour that day. I think I spoke to her in the early evening and she passed in the late evening. I was actually going to go visit her the next morning on my way into work. And, we were chatting and we were talking about a variety of things, mostly like the song that she wrote, and she was asking me about when she could see the movie.
When we did the last shot of the movie, I came back to the hotel with her in her car and with Ziggy, with her dog. And then Ziggy was sitting on my lap and Domino told me, Edgar, I want you to listen to something that I composed. And then it was a theme for the movie. I loved it. And I said, this is cool, you gotta really get it in the movie. And then we spent, I don't know, we were drinking coffee at the lobby like until 6 a.m. in the morning. So just having coffee, like nothing extreme, nothing. We were drinking coffee.
The people who were at her memorial service said, for the first time she had a focus on her life. She was doing yoga. She wanted to get healthy and look good for when the movie came out and the press she was going to do. And her motto, which is one of the key lines in the movie, is "Heads you live, tails you die." And that was, that came right out of one of the original transcriptions, one of the original meetings I had with her. And she always talked about Janis Joplin a lot, and so she had a strange perspective on life and her life.
For me, she was like a way more normal, if there's something normal going on in the world, and like a very nice girl.
If I would have called her the day I came into town, things might have been different. I don't know. That's what hurt.
The sad thing for me is that she's not going to get a chance to see, this film that's inspired by her and that we worked very hard on over the last decade.
And that's where she'd been here to hopefully reap the benefits and the glory that the movie will bring to her.
She was so young, but yet she lived such a full life. And she had done so much in the first 35 years of her life that I, was sort of looking forward to see what she was going to do in the next 35. Most people talk about doing things and wish that they could do all these various things in life and experience life. But with her, if she had an idea of something she wanted to do, she would just go off and do it without really thinking about the ramifications of what would happen afterwards. If she wanted to try something, she would just go out and try it, which, I think is a pretty noble thing. And most of us wish we had the courage to do that sort of stuff.
I always love people who I feel reach to places that most normal human beings don't want to go, or reach into dark territory of their soul, and she did. I always love extreme characters. She was an extreme character.
Yeah, whatever, that's mine, man.
Nobody could probably really put what Domino's life is into a movie. I mean, it's a short amount of time, and it's years and years that she's lived that life. The people she's lived it with are not actors. They're extreme people who treat you in an extreme way, and you've got to deal with that. She's not pretending. She's living it. She did live it.
If there's a break into your room and videotapes are missing,
You're gonna come and steal the tapes?
I'll just replace them with other tapes.